Man, people get online and, whether they've moved to Africa or Mexico or Thailand, a lot of people get online and try to flex because they've moved abroad, man. But I'll be honest, man, like me moving abroad is not a flex, man. It's part of my exit strategy. You know what I'm saying? Like I personally moved somewhere completely different to live a completely different lifestyle. To put me and my family in a completely different situation going forward. So you gotta understand when I come online, whether it's on YouTube or Insta or TikTok, when I'm talking about or encouraging people to consider moving abroad, it's not a flex. It's not a look at me. It's a make a change before a change has to be made and look at things long term. You know what I'm saying? And what made me want to have this video, man? I was looking through my backpack, man, and I saw these bills, brother. I don't know why I had them in my bag, but I saw these bills, and I'm just comparing them to what I pay for my spot in Bangkok, right? So I'm looking at my electric bill. I got my electric bill yesterday from at the spot in Bangkok, and my bill was $29 and some change. $29 per month for last month for my electric bill. Now I'll say this: my spot isn't but about 30 square meters, right? I do have three air conditioner units. I run them and cut them off as needed. At nighttime, I'll normally run one of them. When I leave the house, I'll cut it off. You know what I'm saying? When I leave the house, I don't leave televisions on and none of that kind of stuff. My bill was $29, right? This is my bill in America before I moved. And of course, I took my address and all that stuff off. But my electric bill in America, $624 for an electric bill. Now this is probably the highest one I got. I saw another one here, man, for $483, and it averaged about between $483 and $520 average. But I saw this one; it was a $624 electric bill. Electric bill, $624. So again, when I'm talking about moving abroad, it's not a flex; it's an exit strategy, man. An exit strategy. I had a water bill in there also. Now let me say this: the crib that I had in Texas, I was living in Frisco, Texas. It was close to 4,000 square feet, 2-story, several rooms. So I'm not comparing apples and oranges, but per, you know what I'm saying? The numbers are crazy. You know what I'm saying? $600 something dollars for electric per month. I'm looking at my water bill, man. Here's my water bill, same address. 2 people living in the household. Me and my son living together. Water bill, 200 and this is amongst the higher bills, $279. 270, and you see my name on there, Armand Hill, that's my government. $279 per month for water for 2 people. Yeah, I might have watered the grass every once in a while, wash the car, whatever. $279 compared to $2 and $3 for my water bill here in my spot in Bangkok. So just those 2 utilities alone. Just those 2 utilities alone, man. You're talking about roughly $900 per month. Per month that now I get to kind of bring in and sit on for the next number of years. Just that one. You know what I'm saying? And in my mind, this is the thing I don't understand. Maybe I'm not a engineer. I don't know how electricity is harnessed and distributed. But I'm like, surely goodness and mercy, there's not that big of a difference, to sending electricity to families or households here in Thailand as it is in America. And surely goodness and mercy, man, they're using similar irrigation systems to move water around. Why is a water bill here $2 and $3 and a water bill in America is almost $300? You know what I'm saying? So again, moving to Thailand is not a flex. It's an exit strategy, man. Like this last video I made, like we got to start thinking different. So you're looking at $900 roughly just from those 2 things. Think about car notes. Most people right now are spending, or having $800 car notes. Some people are having. I know people with brand new trucks or some sport cars or sedans. Man, they're paying $1,100, $1,200 a month in car note. In car note. Not to even think about insurance. And most people have, one or two, maybe even three cars and a couple of toys. You know what I'm saying? So you got to just start thinking about, like, when I'm talking about moving abroad, you got to understand it's an exit strategy. And like I talked about in this last video, you have to start thinking different. Like I said in that video, I think I paid 300 baht for this shirt. And bought a couple of them and will rock them every day. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that the bank account is doing something else. Because this is the thing. This is the goal. This is the goal. I can't say everybody should be. The goal should just be, and I want to say it like this. I want to be very specific, man. Like, I'm always talking about this 100-year cycle. I'm always talking about every 100 years, every 100 years we're going to have a depression, we're going to have recessions, we're going to have a version of that 19. We're going to have massive layoffs. We're going to have market crashes. Every 100 years is guaranteed to happen. It's been happening for several centuries, right? You have to understand that right now, the mark that we're at, if you're watching this video, you're at the point of the 100-year mark where you're setting you're the quarterback. You're quarterbacking what the next 100 years, you're quarterbacking what the next 1 to 300 years will look like for your family. I'm gonna say it again. You're quarterbacking, like we're always talking about. I might talk about this on YouTube, but like we talk about in the power circle, or amongst my brothers, we'll talk about, like, when you think about, and I use the same examples all the time. When you think about the Halliburtons and the Cummings, like, these are big companies now. Everybody knows these names as Fortune 500 companies, but you gotta understand, these names are the names of just regular men. Halliburton, Cummings, I work for both of those companies. I know the history of those companies. These were just simple men that said, hey, you know what? I understand where I am, chronologically. I understand that what I do now, like, the people behind me will eat off this for the next 400 or 500 years, possibly. So a lot of these big names, and if you don't believe me, go back and look at all the companies. Just Google it. Go back and Google all the companies that started in the year 1919. You're going to be amazed at what you see. You're going to be amazed at all these big names. Like what made them all start at the same time? Key Energy. That's a big company. 1919. I worked for that one too. That's when I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, how did I work for 3 different companies, big companies, and all of them started at the same time? It's because they were in that window of opportunity, and those were the men that took advantage of it. You know what I'm saying? So you have to get in the mindset of, hey, you know what? I understand that what I'm doing now is setting the mark for the next 100 years. I'm doing things now that are looking out for people that are going to be behind me. You have to start moving in that energy. So again, when you talk about, and some people might move abroad to flex, and I might get online and talk about how Thailand is this and the bills. But you got to understand, I'm coming from a place of, hey, bro, I'm trying to be there for my family. I'm trying to make sure that when they put me in a grave or put me in the urn, that my family, that my son is still taken care of. You know what I'm saying? I made my son the editor and a few other things of my book, so that if anything ever happens to me, he already has the rights to that. I'm hoping he eats off a singular truth long after I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? So we have to start thinking different, man. And again, moving abroad, it shouldn't be a flex. Yeah, there are some, like I love, kind of like right now, I'm up here in Nong Khai. I'm up here in Nong Khai getting ready to celebrate the holiday tonight. And I'm not going to even say the holiday, man. I keep messing the name up. Loy Katong or something like that, man. I keep saying it wrong, but getting ready to celebrate Loy Katong tonight, man, up here in this beautiful countryside. I'm up here in Nong Khai. It's up here, people ain't heard of Nong Khai, man. It's up here in the north. Like, I'm right, like probably 3 football fields behind me is the river that separates Thailand from Laos. You know what I'm saying? You can go across and I'll probably show that later. I'm gonna make some content later at the event. But you can see Laos from across the river, man. and it's just beautiful up here. It's just beautiful up here, man. And all I'm saying is this, man. Everything it's like this. All I'm saying is this, man. And again, it's really piggybacking off my last video. Everything that we're doing now, everything that if you're watching this video, I'm talking to you because that means you're in that window. Everything you're doing now is going to play a major role in what the next 100 to 300 years looks like in your family. You know what I'm saying? And this is a conversation I was having with my son a couple of weeks ago. Right? We were sitting there we were in Phuket. At Phuket, this little restaurant, man, the food was, golly, the food was the bomb. And I was having a conversation with my son, and I was explaining some things to him. You know, my son is 18 now. He's getting ready to go out and conquer the world, and da-da-da. And the conversation I was having with him was amongst one of the realer conversations I've had with the man. And I was explaining to him, like, and I shared with him before, I was explaining to him how my father grew up. I said, you know what, man? I said, you know, your granddad, even though you didn't get to meet him, man, I said, good man. I said, but you gotta understand, your granddad, he grew up like this. This is what he went through. He grew up in a shotgun house. Like, you know what a shotgun house is? Yeah, I know what a shotgun house is. He grew up in a shotgun house, man. You know, his family situation, that family dynamic wasn't peaches and cream. You know, his pops kind of moved a certain way and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I went down through there with him, told him about that. I said, but somehow my father was able to raise my family, you know, my mother and my sister in a completely different environment. Like me growing up, like I would have never thought my father lived the way he lived growing up. So he was able to take that baton and move forward. And then I was telling my son, I said, hey, you know what, man? Like, you know, like when you like me and you, we've been living together, man, since, you know, you were this year, you know, my son moved with me when he was 12 years old. I said, you know, when you moved here, man, like we put ourselves, you know, we're living in certain environments, we're around certain things. Like it's nothing for you to see, you know, be amongst Lamborghinis, you know what I'm saying? Like you grown up in a big house and movie theater and the whole shebang. I said a lot of that was because, you know what, we just kind of want to live a certain way. I said, but the primary reason I want to live in that situation was for you. I said, because now, you know, again, we were in Phuket at the time. And, you know, my son, you know, has his own apartment over here. 18 has his own apartment over here in Thailand. I said, you know, I said now, and I kind of went through when I talk about a singular truth. Y'all think I just talk that stuff like that. That's part of my life. And I'm explaining to my son the power of his truth. I said, see, now your truth is a certain thing. I said, to live in a certain size house, that's your truth. Like to get back in a bigger crib if you want to, like that's nothing to you. To live in a certain part of the city, to drive certain cars, and all this, like that's nothing to you because you felt that, you've experienced that. I said, but now is your time, you know, to you know, you see what I've done or what I'm still doing. Now you're supposed to go forward and do bigger and better things that I did and your grandfather did. Like that's the way it's supposed to go. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of things we got to start doing as men. We got to start thinking like generational men. We got to stop being selfish, thinking about us just hoarding things for ourselves and start thinking about, you know, creating a life for people or creating scenarios in the future that we will never get to experience. My son, as smart as he is, man, as disciplined he is, at some point in time, my son is going to be living however he wants to live. I'm talking about if he wants to live in a 20,000 square foot home on the hills of Calabasas, he can do that. Hands down. Hands down, man. So, you know, and I can easily say, man, that some of the fragments that I've given him, some of the nuggets that I've given him, along with what he's going to learn on his own along the way, is going to put him there, man. But us as men, and I'm speaking to us men, we have to start thinking from a generational standpoint. Like, and this is one thing I share with my brothers. I talk about families like the Kennedys and the Clintons and all these well-known the Rothschilds and the Johnsons, like the Johnson and Johnson family, like, you know, and I'm just naming those families because they're coming. But you gotta understand, they move different. They move different. They like when a lot of people are talking family and all that kind of stuff in normal conversation amongst us, like it don't really mean the same thing. For example, or a lot of people are talking about like mainly like marriages. It's kind of like when Bill Clinton got caught up with the Lewinsky chick. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, oh, they finna get divorced. She finna leave Bill Clinton. She ain't going nowhere. She ain't going nowhere. She's moving to a completely different beat. She's moving to a completely different. See, a lot of women today, and I don't want to make this video about relationships, but a lot of women today, a lot of people today, let me be fair, a lot of people today, but I see a lot of women on the gram, right, and a lot of women on TikTok that will have one bump in the road. Oh, my husband left his sock. I'm tired of seeing socks on the ground. Or my husband got laid off from his job and it took him more than 30 days to find another one, so I'm out. You gotta understand, they're moving based on 200 or 300 years from now. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about like the Clintons and all that stuff, they're moving to a completely different frequency. They're moving saying, okay, you know what? Like we gotta understand that like in other words, like people have to start treating marriage as if they're a royal family. People have to start treating marriage as if they're a royal family, saying, hey, you know what? I don't want to break this household up. I know in 200 or 300 years, when they look back and they see the family lineage, they can see that's mom and dad, that's grandpa and grandma, that's that. They don't want to be like, oh, well, that's daddy's third wife, and that's Mr. John, that mama, that's da. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not saying that's wrong with that. That's just the world we live in. I've been divorced, right? So I'm not sitting there, but they move to a different drum, almost like they're royalty, almost like they're protecting their bloodline, right? So, and I don't know how I got on that part, but I don't know how I went from electric bill $500 to this, but all I'm saying is, man, we got to start thinking different, right? And when I talk about moving abroad, moving to Thailand, yeah, man, Thailand is the bomb, man. It's like it's literally paradise. You know what I'm saying? The kingdom, the land of milk and honey, bro. But it's not to flex, man. I look at this as part of my exit strategy, man. This is part of the way I'm going to change my lineage, bro.